Hi everyone and welcome back to our channel. So today, since we talk a lot about like financial wellness and all the things around like finances, we thought we'd talk about like working and how we've made the money that we've made in our lives. So we thought it'd be kind of interesting just to talk about the types of jobs that we've had, maybe why we've taken them, why we've left them, things like that. We thought it might be interesting. So if you're interested in hearing about some of the jobs that we've had throughout our lives, just keep on watching.
Here we go. So we just finished filming what you're about to see.
Yeah.
And Jesse just mentioned that we didn't have coffee.
Yeah, the whole point of this was coffee chats with both of us. I had a coffee right before we filmed this, but then
I was
threw it
like
away.
thinking about making some tea. Like I'm literally gonna go make tea right now.
Yeah, totally forgot it. So please know
Fail.
that I hope that you all have some coffee while you watch this video, and I hope that you enjoy it. But just know as you watch this that we're supposed to have coffee with you here. We just are idiots and forgot.
Next time.
So starting in like, I don't know, high school. Did you have a job in high school?
Yeah, my first job was at the Container Store. It was a seasonal job. I worked it over winter. So I like did carryouts and stuff, and at that age it was fun, but like that part of it, otherwise I was like stuck, what's it called, like facing shelves. That was that, and then I got a job later on at Target, and I worked in the back room there, which I was like super pumped about because as an introvert, and especially at the time, I did not want to have anything to do with people. So I did that and it was fantastic. I got to a point where I was like summers, I was working basically full time, like 35 hours a week.
Yeah, I lived in the middle of nowhere, so you only had like one or two options to work. Well, I guess my first job was at McDonald's. I worked the drive-thru at McDonald's, which was actually amazing. All of my friends worked at McDonald's, so it was kind of like we all got to work together and have a great time. The reason I worked there is because they were extremely flexible of my schedule. I was extremely involved in high school. I was in like every club and every sport and all that kind of stuff. So basically I would work like weekends and that was it. And then obviously like over the summer, like he said, I would work a lot more. And I was always like the opening shift. So then moving into college, what did you do? Did you work?
So like I said, I held on to the Target job. I went away to school. I went to University of Illinois in Champaign, Urbana. They were like, oh, you can come back and work on breaks and stuff. I was an awesome employee, so of course they wanted me back. So I did that on breaks, and it was great money-wise, but it also made my breaks really not exciting compared to like everybody else was like partying and drinking. And then in school, I only worked like during school for a bit of that time. I worked at one of the dining halls, one of the dining halls at U of I, and I actually really liked that. The way that I got into that was you got a free meal with every shift. I'm an eater. I've always loved eating, and especially as a college student when you only had a certain amount of credits or whatever for food, an extra meal was definitely a bonus. Yeah, so that was college for me.
I don't even remember all of the jobs that I had in college. I went to a small private school in the Green Bay, Wisconsin area, and I waitressed. I probably had 3 waitressing jobs throughout college, just depending on different like places that I could work. Like I said, the first like year I would go home on weekends and I would work at McDonald's, and then I got into waitressing. On campus, I did a few catering jobs, but that I hated it, like absolutely hated it. And then I worked part-time in career services for 2.5 of my years. So I was like an office assistant in the career services office, which I actually really enjoyed. You were only allowed to work 10 hours a week at an on-campus job at my college because they they didn't want you to work. They wanted you to focus. So I would do that, and then I would also have like a waitressing job or some other job as well. And I still waitressed, and I was an intern for the housing department. I was a communications and logistics intern for our housing department for the year. And then I was also an intern for Aurora Healthcare during that time, doing public relations and marketing events for a hospital system in the Green Bay area that I did for about 6 months my senior year as well. So my senior year, I had 2 internships and a part-time job, and I was a senior. So it was a little crazy. I worked my entire college career, and it's like both a blessing and a curse, because I didn't get to spend as much time with friends. I didn't get to go out as much as my other friends went. I'm happy that I did that, but at the same time, it kind of instilled this like irritation in my mind that I didn't really get the same college experience as some of my friends did. But then moving out of college, it really helped me having that many jobs and having the work ethic that I did and having internships under my belt really helped. So what was your first job out of college?
Right after college, I didn't have a job lined up. So I kept, I went home, I moved back home, started working at Target, and I did that for it was only a few months. And then I finally got a job in December, like I mentioned, in my field. The degree that I had was a bachelor's in computer science from the engineering department at U of I. And I was like super excited. I'd been on a handful of interviews. So it didn't take me too many interviews. It just took a while to find a good position. Just a note here for anybody watching in like our age, we graduated college after like the Great Recession.
Yeah. 2008, 2009 was the worst part. We graduated in 2010. So
yeah, and it was a position that I was definitely interested in. I had to commute. I wasn't necessarily like to the city of Chicago, but from where my parents lived, if you're familiar, in Schaumburg, Illinois to Skokie, Illinois, which was still like essentially like commuting into Chicago. It was like a 45 to an hour commute depending on time and stuff. So I did that. So yeah, so I worked that job for 2 years, but actually like a year in, it was a consulting job, and they put me on a project out in North Carolina, and I was going back and forth for a little bit, but then they essentially asked me to move out there. They're like, can we just put you there? Because that would be way easier. There's gonna be less like back and forth. And I was young, I was single, like, sure, why not? Like, I've never lived anywhere else, so it'll be cool. So I did that for a while. While I was out there, at first it was really great to be on my own, independent as it is, so that part was cool. But I quickly realized, it's pretty much like the year mark with this job. So especially like as I was out there and I was like really just working a lot and doing a little bit on the side, but it was like I just worked because that's what I was out there doing. I really started to realize that I didn't care about my job, and not only did I not care, I just had like no ambition and desire to be doing it whatsoever. And so just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I don't have any goals. I'm not invested in what I'm doing. I'm not fulfilled. I don't feel like I'm making an impact. And so I thought about this for a while, but essentially settled on potentially trying out personal training. It was like a big hobby of mine at the time, working out and health and fitness. So I started studying to get a personal training certification, and I did that. I had all sorts of health issues that was like intermingled with stress and anxiety, and all this stuff was going on at one time, and I was like, I need to move home. I quit that job eventually after a couple months after I moved home, and then I quit the job without having anything lined up. I did that for a few months while I was looking for personal training jobs in the Chicagoland area. back home with my parents, and I eventually found one in the city of Chicago. I worked at Equinox in Lincoln Park, and I did that for a year. I quit on the year mark so that I could at least have that on my resume, and started personal training independently. And so that's kind of what I've been doing since then. It's been 5 years, over 5 years independently.
Since you blew right past the what was your first job out of college question, we can now go into everything I've done in the past 5 years. Like, how long have we even been out of college? 10 years? So my first job was I waitressed again right out of college. I was living in Green Bay, but my boyfriend at the time was living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I wanted to be in Milwaukee. I was looking for a job. I couldn't find a job. Same thing. So what I did is I worked at Express, the like store, which I hated. I hate retail more than life. I hate retail so much. So that only lasted a couple of months. And then I also waitressed at a downtown restaurant in Milwaukee. So I would like go back and forth between Green Bay and Milwaukee until I found my first job, which actually was technically a paid internship. It was basically just like a trial period, but they called you an intern. So I was a marketing intern for a marketing research company, which sounds as exciting as it is. So I worked there for a month, and then they promoted me to a marketing specialist, which was full-time. And then I started there 6 months out of college. So it took me 6 months to find a job. So I did that for just over a year. And then I had this like picture in my mind as a communications degree with a like specialty in media. I like wanted so badly to work at an ad agency. I thought it was like the coolest thing. There were tons of them in Milwaukee. I was like, this is what I want to do. I like scouted people on Twitter. I like set up informational interviews with like all these people that worked at ad agencies and like marketing agencies, because I thought it was like the coolest thing. Because here at work, you could like, there would be like kegs and there would be like parties all the time, even though I didn't drink. So like, I don't really know. But so I did the marketing research thing, like I said, for about a year. And then I got my first job at a ad agency, a very large ad agency, which, fun fact, was literally across the street from the job that I left. I worked there for only 5 months, and I was recruited by another marketing branding ad agency in Milwaukee. I jumped at that job. It paid more, which was helpful, but it also had more responsibility. My job at the first ad agency was basically just like a glorified assistant. So I moved into this marketing coordinator role. I was there for about 2.5 years. I was promoted to an assistant account executive. I had really close relationships with everyone that I worked with. I loved what I did. However, my boss was like difficult. Her and I just like didn't see eye to eye, and she pushed me in a lot of ways that were really, really great. Like I learned a lot of things in that role, and I got to do so many parts of marketing, and that's where I got my start in social media. However, she also pushed me to the brink of like pretty consistent panic attacks and like just extreme anxiety, because I was always worried that she was going to fire me. I was always worried that she was going to yell at me. Like I could tell by the way that she walked through the office if she was mad or not. So like literally she just stressed me out so much. I was barely making any money, which is pretty normal in ad agencies. In order to make any money, you have to basically jump from ad agency to ad agency. So I wasn't really making any money, even though I was getting a lot of really good experience. So I was working part-time in the building that I lived in. So I was working part-time on the weekends for 12 hours as a leasing agent, which I actually really loved. And then I left that job and went to, I feel like I'm forgetting a job, but I have no idea. I left that job and moved back to Green Bay for a job at my alma mater, where I became a really beautiful title, Assistant Director of Alumni Communities, which was AKA an event planner for our alumni within the Midwest region. So I planned events throughout the Midwest for the alumni of the college that I went to, it was actually really, really fun. I really loved that job. The worst part was it didn't pay well. It was in Green Bay, which is not where I wanted to be. And working at a Catholic college, I wasn't a fan of the working side of my college. I loved going to college there, but I wasn't a fan of the very old boys club type feel that it was working at a male dominated Catholic college. So within that time, I was also doing social media management part-time. I was working part-time at a gym that I also loved. I loved all of my jobs. It was just, I was working like 70 to 80 hours a week, just to get by and to pay my bills and to pay my rent. I met Ben, and I had already wanted to move out of Green Bay. So he lived in Chicago. So that was perfect. It was one of the places I was interested in. So I took a job at Sears corporate. I worked there for like 4 months. It was like the worst decision I ever made.
It got her to Chicago.
It got me to Chicago. That's the only thing.
That was the single silver lining.
It was so stressful. The commute was really stressful. It was like 3 hours total per day.
Sears is a disaster. Like the company
they were
is
like
basically
failing.
going out of business and trying to stay afloat. So the whole thing was just a mess.
Yeah, my first week there, they laid off like 200 people. And I was like, whoa. So yeah, I did that, and I was also doing some social media management on the side during that time, and then I found a job in Chicago, so in the metro area, which is where we were living, and I worked there for almost 2 years, year and a half. It was like a tech startup. Also, it was a really bad experience. It was good, and I was paid pretty well, and I got a lot of autonomy, which was great. Again, just had a really, really tough boss. Do with that what you will. I'm just really bad at like working under people. I have no idea, but like this boss was just effing insane. So that's when I was actually recruited by my current positions. I am a social media manager for a small startup in Chicago. I work mostly remote at this time. I've done a little bit of social media management on the side, but currently I'm not. I'm just doing that. So that's where I've been at for just over a year now.
So our current jobs are that. And then for me, still doing a little bit of personal training, and then also doing some coaching for individuals who feel stuck and like they should be doing something else with their life. Most of them are millennials who have been working a certain job for a handful of years, and all of a sudden are like, what the hell am I doing? I'm not happy, I'm not driven, I don't wake up with purpose, or like I'm just going through the motions. And so I help them try to find direction and move to something that they enjoy, kind of with a specialty in helping those that have a side hustle. For me, it was like I got into personal training and then went off and did that independently, and have been working independently ever since. So helping people start their business or go all in on it has been kind of like a specialty, which I really, really love doing. I just truly, truly believe that we have so much opportunity, our generation specifically, and especially the ones coming after us. And my quality of life just changed so much, going from a cubicle where I just didn't love anything and my whole life revolved around that and it sucked, to be doing something that I truly cared about and enjoyed, and have some flexibility of schedule just totally changed everything for me. So I have really made that my mission to help as many people as possible that want or feel like they should have a different life, to help them get to that point. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And then I am actually looking into starting my own coaching business. So as you guys might know, I have a bit of a like content creation addiction. So I have a blog, I have this YouTube channel, I have a podcast, I have all this kind of stuff. And an area that I'm really passionate about, which is what my podcast is about, is living with chronic illness. I have a chronic illness, so does he. And I want to basically help people, specifically women that have hit the point of their healing journey that they are like ready to move on with their life and live a life that isn't focused around chronic illness, and how they can go after the things that they love without letting their illness hold them back. So I'm actually starting with a business coach here soon to help me figure out that whole path, because I know that that's the path that I should be on. So that is what we're doing right now. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing as far as jobs go. I hope that you found it interesting. If you did watch, make sure to leave it a thumbs up and a comment down below, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thank you guys.